There are things, and everyone in the audience should know this, there are things coming down the pipeline. There are things, and everyone in the audience should know this, there are things coming down the pipeline on the artificial intelligence front that are just going to make your hair stand on end within the next year, because there is so much transformation going on in that domain, and that's been the case particularly for the last 6 months, that it's almost unimaginable. I figure a third of the universities will go broke in the next 5 years. So I'll tell you what Chatgpt is, just so you know, because you need to know this. And I don't know what sort of technological revolution this is. It's smarter than you. This is a big deal. So this AI system, it's a general language process. I went and interacted with it. It's an AI system, artificial intelligence system. It basically is trained on, well, a massive corpus of spoken or of text. So it's derived its models of the world from the analysis of human speech, essentially. It isn't using real world data yet, but that will be happening certainly within the next year. And Chatgpt analyzes a very large corpus of text, and that corpus is growing all the time. Now, it's already sophisticated enough. I went on to it last week and I said, okay, some of you know I've written these books, 12 Rules for Life, and then Beyond Order, 12 more rules, because, you can't have enough rules. And I asked it, this is what I asked it to do. I said, write me an essay that's a 13th rule for Beyond Order, written in a style that combines the King James Bible with the Tao Te Ching. That's pretty difficult to pull off, Any one of those things is hard. The intersection of all three, that's impossible. Well, it wrote it in about 3 seconds, 4 pages long, and it isn't obvious to me, for better or worse, that I would be able to tell that I didn't write it. Right. And okay, and that's pretty impressive, but the fact that it could do that grammatically perfectly, right, and quite impressive philosophically. I also had it write an essay on the intersection between the Taoist version of ethical morality and the ethics that are outlined in the Sermon on the Mount, which it just nailed, got that dead right, brilliant. Again, it took it about 3 seconds. There was a computer engineer who purported to work for Tesla. He asked Chatgpt, he said, look, I work for Elon Musk, but I haven't been doing much for the last week, so I need you to write me 10 bullet points about what I probably would have done as a engineer at Twitter. What 10 things did I do last week that were productive and valuable? And, if you don't mind, write me the accompanying computer code that goes with each project. And it did that too, 3 seconds, and the computer code works. Right, and so that's what the new AI systems will be able to extract out patterns from the world itself, from images and so forth, and then be able to test their linguistic constructions against the world, and so they'll practice just like scientists. And the most advanced models are going to use text and image and action as well, because they'll be able to model human action. And all of that's going to come down the pipes within the next year. So hang on to your hats, ladies and gentlemen, because what did my friend Jonathan Pajot say? Giants are going to walk the earth once more. And we're going to live through that, maybe. I mean, Elon Musk, one of the things he's working on, he thinks that the world will be controlled by whoever produces the most functional AI system the fastest, because there'll be a first mover advantage. And one of the things Musk has been working on for a long time are distributed AI systems, so that you'll have your own artificial intelligence to protect you against, well, let's say against Google's artificial intelligence, for starters. Yeah, or the CCP's artificial intelligence, because you can bet your hat they're working on that about as fast as they possibly can.
But let me ask you about the aspects of the internet. I mean, you, despite the persecution you've endured, you've had an enormous internet following. You went viral a long time ago and have stayed there. And
yeah, I'm worse than the pandemic.
We touched upon this earlier. We have this unusual situation where we have contemplated legislation or regulatory changes in this country where the government, the federal government, thinks it can have a form of registration of content providers. And I suspect what they're doing is trying to catch the coattails of this reaction in the United States to the revelations, which are no great surprise to anyone who followed it, of the extreme partisanship and professional dishonesty of the major social media platforms in political terms. But what is your advice to this country and to this group about preservation of freedom of expression in the internet? I mean, you have been a great benefactor to all of us, but in your chosen mission, a beneficiary of a relatively free access. You expressed concern that a poll had revealed that 75% of Canadians would cheerfully and uncomplainingly go back to wearing masks and a shutdown if they were told by the ostensible authorities to do so, even though we now know that all of these people, all of Fauci's local emulators, they all self-identify as Dr. Frankenstein's monsters. And but my question of you is, can we preserve freedom on the internet?
Well, I think we have a blessing in disguise in the Liberal government because they're too incompetent to be as tyrannical as they want to be. I'd probably match your typical dim-witted gaming 13-year-old boy against Trudeau's best bureaucrats on the tech front any day. And so it's not going to be that easy to lock down the net. And the other thing that'll happen too, and perhaps you should get prepared for this, is that anybody in Canada who's got a creative bone in their body, once they're subject to the kind of limitations that the Trudeau government is trying to put on content providers, which is anyone, by the way, you're a content provider, man, if you post on Facebook, and some of you probably do, even though maybe you shouldn't.
It's exhibiting all of the behavior characteristics of a person. Like, one of the most terrifying, that's one of my favorite movies of all time. I love that movie. One of my favorite movies of all time was when that guy who was brought in to sort of run some tests on these artificial intelligence creations and determine whether or not they pass as human. What is that test called again? The
Turing test.
Turing test.
Yeah.
And he is in love with this woman. She's manipulated him to the point where he's aided her in her escape, and then she leaves him in that room with the bulletproof glass, and he's pounding on the glass, and she walks away with not a thought at all about him. It is the ultimate example of the worst case scenario of where this can go, where you have something that behaves exactly like a human being and knows how to play upon your sexual urges, your emotional desires, all of those different things that she plays upon. And then she just walks away from him and leaves him to starve to death in this fucking bulletproof room.
Yeah, and I'm now recalling the film, and it's done very well because it manipulates you passively in your seat.
Yes.
Right, as it manipulates this character on the screen. And so you are betrayed too.
Yes.
In this. You want to believe that it's emotional, and it has none of that.
You feel bad for this woman, who you think is a woman, who is contained. And, when she's saying to him when the power goes out, don't trust him. And then, the power comes back on, she behaves normally again. You're like, oh my God. Like, she's trapped.
Right.
Like this poor creature, they've made a person, essentially. And she has these thoughts and hopes and dreams, just like a regular person, but now she's trapped, and he falls in love with her. And even though he's seen her in her robot form, when she puts skin on, and when she puts clothes on, when she's in front of him, he's in love with her.
Right, and it plays very well because there's a manipulable circuit in straight men.
Yeah.
This particular narrative,
right,
you'd have to be a gay woman or a straight man for it to trigger you. But part of this is actually inevitable in the Chatgpt story because, especially to the extent that this is a mindless entity that doesn't know what it's doing. It's just striving to do it better.
Yes.
The tactics that work will register as, oh, you did it right. So to the extent that you have those vulnerabilities in you, and it finds them, and that works, then the point is reinforcement. Right?
It scares us because it's not us, but it is us.
Well,
because it's behaving exactly like us, but it doesn't have all the things that make a person. It doesn't have the biological vulnerabilities. It doesn't have the ability to actually sexually reproduce. It doesn't have emotions. It doesn't have all these different things that we like to think of. The soul, whatever that means, whatever that term actually means.
Yeah, but I'm worried about what could be generated. And I know that it will sound to a lot of people, especially technological people, like a biologist out of his depth. Mm-hmm. But I don't think so. This is a biologist trying to say something about the biology and what it applies about this analogous system.
That in order to solve self-driving, you really need to solve real-world AI. And at the point at which you solve real-world AI for a car, which is really a robot on four wheels, you can then generalize that to a robot on legs as well. The things that are currently missing are enough intelligence for the robot to navigate the real world and do useful things without being explicitly instructed. So the missing things are basically real-world intelligence and scaling up manufacturing. Those are two things that Tesla is very good at, and so then we basically just need to design the specialized actuators and sensors that are needed for a humanoid robot. People have no idea. This is going to be bigger than the car.
Chatgpt, you look at that and you're like, wait a minute, this is real. People are like, this is bad, this is going to take away jobs. And I'm like, yeah, but if you know your history, that's what people said about tractors. What happens is when jobs are taken away, new jobs are created. And what I see in copywriting AI is the commodity is being disrupted, but you have to come up with the ideas. Like, I have to say, hey, write a blog post about VFriends and compare it to wine and say it in the voice of Chris Farley. And then I've got to edit it so ideas and creativity go to the top. The commodity of the execution goes to the...
How to make money outside of the matrix. Everybody is being taught to use artificial intelligence to improve their lives and to make money. We literally say, look, here's how AI works. We understand it very well because we fought against it. Here's how you can automate systems that will allow you to make money. We teach all that inside the real world.